Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhajagacharya Statadashata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shiva Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shiva Prabhupada Ki Jai. Good morning. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Reading from the 10th canto, 89th chapter, verses 6 and 7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nasta Presha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloka Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangu Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurundinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Isharam Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Romapada Swamiti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachardine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschadyadesh Tarine. So we'll chant verse 6 responsively, and then I'll chant verse 7 once. We'll do the word-for-word translation and purport. Naichatvam asyuto pataga iti devaschukopaha shulam udyamya tam hantum. Arebe tigmalochana naichatam asyutpadga iti devas chukopaha shulam udyamya tam hantum. Arebe tigmalochanaha naichatam asya utapaga iti devas chukopaha shulam udyamya tam hantum. Arebe tigmalochana. Please chant. Alright, and verse 7 is Patitva padayor devi santam yam asyatam gira ato jagama vaikuntam yatra devo janardana. Word for word. Na aichat. He did not desire this embrace. Tvam, you. Asi, are. Utpataga, a transgressor of the path of religion. Iti, so saying. Devaha, the Lord Shiva. Chukopaha, became angry. Shulam, his trident. Udyamya, raising. Tam, him, Brigu. Hantum, to kill. Aribe, was about. Tigma, fierce. Lochana, whose eyes. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. But Brigu refused his embrace, telling him, "You are a deviant heretic." At this, Lord Shiva became angry, and his eyes burned ferociously. He raised his trident and was about to kill Brigu, when Goddess Devi fell at his feet and spoke some words to pacify him. Brigu then left that place and went to Vaikuntha, where Lord Janardana resides. Purport. In Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada writes, "It is said that an offense can be committed either with the body, with the mind, or by speech. Bhrigu Muni's first offense, committed towards Lord Brahma, was an offense of the mind. His second offense, committed towards Lord Shiva, by insulting him, criticizing him for unclean habits, was an offense by speech. Because the quality of ignorance is prominent in Lord Shiva, when he heard Brigu's insult, his eyes immediately became red with anger. With uncontrollable rage, he stood up his trident and prepared to kill Bhrigu Muni. At that time, Lord Shiva's wife, Parvati, was present. Her personality, like Lord Shiva's, is a mixture of the three qualities, and therefore she is called Triguna Mayi. In this case, she saved the situation by evoking Lord Shiva's quality of goodness. Srila Jiva Goswami remarks that the Vaikuntha planet referred to here is Svetadweep. We see in this verse that the mode of ignorance is prominent in Lord Shiva, and by that we see how the person in ignorance tends to react to challenging or uncomfortable things. These few verses that we're reading right now are particularly helpful as a commentary on what we can generally expect from persons according to what mode they're in. Just like in this verse, we can see in our own lives how people who are in the mode of ignorance or predominated by the mode of ignorance tend to act or react. They act with anger and sometimes violence, and they need help from others externally to control their emotions. We can similarly understand from the previous verse that persons who are in the mode of passion also tend to get angry, but they're able to keep their emotions a little bit more in check. So with the coming verses which happen in Vaikuntha, we'll see by the example of the mode of goodness personified, Lord Vishnu, how a person who's predominated by the mode of goodness will react to challenges or reversals in life. It's a very useful metric for someone who wants to make spiritual advancement in life, to be able to understand how the different persons predominated by the different modes generally behave and act. We should be able to see in the people around us what mode they're predominated by, so that we have an idea how they will respond when the going gets tough, as it were. And this is good for someone who's wanting to make spiritual advancement, because the best way to make spiritual advancement is to surround oneself by those who are in the mode of goodness. Because from that material mode of goodness, we can make a step towards spirituality. But the material mode of goodness is not a desired goal for a devotee. It's not something that we strive to attain because of our own good virtues or for the gain that may or may not come by coming to the mode of goodness. But for the devotees, it's just a jumping off point, because the mode of goodness itself is, the material mode of goodness, is still binding in this material world. We can understand from the Bhagavad Gita that one might, after living for so long in the mode of goodness, enjoy nicely for some time on the higher planets, but eventually they're forced back down into human life. So the material mode of goodness it's nice, But if we just stop at the material mode of goodness, then we're keeping ourselves locked in this world. But it is a step, as I said. So we can ask what is on the other side of the material mode of goodness. The other side of material goodness means pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva, which is one could say, the operating system of the spiritual world. So that's what we're trying to come to when we are talking about coming to the mode of goodness. We have to go beyond just the material or mundane conception of goodness. And from there we can easily move past our bodily connections, our bodily designations. So taking a step back, the truth isn't always the easiest thing to deal with. It's not always the easiest thing to find out. But finding out what is the truth should be a serious endeavor on the part of the devotee. We're the end of this verse talking about Vaikuntha. And Vaikuntha is that next level. It's a non-material place. It's on the other side of the Brahman effulgence, separate from this world that we find ourselves in. But it's mentioned in the purport of Srila Jiva Goswami, and it's also mentioned in this purport in relation to Jiva Goswami, that the specific Vaikuntha planet mentioned is Svetadvip, which is a special kind of place. It's like a material outpost of the spiritual world. So Vaikuntha is a nice place. The word Vaikuntha itself actually literally means the place of no anxiety. So just taking that into consideration, it's a huge leap from where we find ourselves now in the material world. But it's just the beginning place of spiritual sweetness. The Brihad Bhagavatamrita of Srila Sanatana Goswami tells the story in the second half of Gopakumar, who is a cowherd boy from Govardhan, though he's not there at the time of Krishna. So as a good cowherd boy, he was given a Gayatri mantra by his guru and told to meditate upon it. And he was given the Gopal Gayatri mantra. And so he goes on, as his guru tells him, to regularly recite the mantra, meditate upon it, and by meditating upon the mantra, try to understand who is Gopal. So Gopakumar goes on this spiritual adventure, transcendental adventure. There's so many different adventures of Gopakumar that are covered in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, but two of them I think are especially fun. Is at one point in time, Gopakumar, being from Govardhan, one of the first places he goes is Mathura, nearby, big city. Maybe Gopal is there. So he goes to one of the ancient temples of Krishna that's there, sees the deity worship going on very gorgeously with nice paraphernalia, and the deity is very luxuriously dressed. And he said, well, this is all very nice, but I'm looking for Gopal. So he leaves from that place in search of Gopal, even though there's Krishna right there on the altar. Later he finds a Brahmana who's worshipping Shalagram Shila. And so he asks the Brahmana, what is it that you're doing? He says, oh, I'm worshipping Shalagram. Gopakumar says, okay, well, what's Shalagram? He's, village boy, cowherd boy. Doesn't know much about anything. And so he observes the worship of the Brahmin, makes some notes, and says, well, this is all nice, but I'm looking for Gopal. And everywhere that Gopakumar went in search of Gopal, he found all of these different forms of serving Krishna, serving Gopal, but he wasn't so educated as to make the connection that the temple worship or the Shalagram worship or any of these things is directly to do with Gopal, the object of his meditation. So he ends up in Vaikuntha, and even in Vaikuntha he's not satisfied. It's such a very wonderful place, the place of Lord Vishnu, and he's still not satisfied. He's still looking for Gopal. And so he keeps going. Gopakumar goes all the way to Goloka, where he finally finds his Gopal. There's some very nice BBT paintings that have been done at different times of Gopakumar finally meeting his Gopal, finally meeting Krishna, and they embrace. So it's a very nice pastime to hear. But there's naturally some instruction to be found in that pastime for devotees. That if there's something we find attractive about Krishna, we should hold on to that and let our attachment to that form or that aspect or that quality of Krishna, we should let that guide us. We should let that be our lifeline, because spiritual life is usually not a very easy thing. And sometimes it's quite a difficult thing. But if we have something that is particularly sweet to us, then we have an anchor in devotional service. Now, it doesn't mean we should be all in all on this thing that we like. We shouldn't just decide that, okay, I like this form of Krishna, I like this ras of Krishna, I like this avatar of Krishna. So that's what I am. I'm a, devotee of Hayagriva, or, a blade of grass in Goloka, or whatever it is. That's, when we take things a little farther than our advancement, then we start to become sahajya. But we should understand these things according to our own position, where we're at. And that, okay, this is something that's inspiring to me, so I'll take inspiration from it. So we can also observe from this couple of verses the importance for sadhu sangha, for one who's trying to make spiritual advancement. When one is surrounded by sadhus, persons who are in the mode of goodness, persons who are more advanced than oneself, then there's this system that's naturally in place where one is naturally uplifted. And there's so many examples of this in the Bhagavatam, and more than one of them have to do with Lord Shiva. This last chapter we were just hearing about Lord Shiva's compassion for the persons in lower forms of life. Now in this chapter we're hearing about Shiva's anger. In this, at least in these verses. And we see previously in the Bhagavatam where Lord Shiva was good association for Sati, and he was trying to help her and say, don't go to your father's party, his get-together, whatever it was, because you'll only be upset and offended by what he has to say about me, so don't go to this thing. And we all know the story. She goes. She gets upset by her father's being, a jerk. She self-emulates, and her father ends up with the head of a goat. So this is the power of sadhu sangha, that when we associate with a saintly person, we don't make offenses, we don't have to set ourselves on fire, and we don't end up with goat heads. That was this class's bad joke of the day. So now in this pastime we're seeing kind of the opposite thing, that Parvati is being good association for Lord Shiva. She sees he's getting upset and does what she can to keep him in a more satisfied, more pacified state. So when we're surrounding ourselves with people who are sadhus, we are making for ourselves, we're cultivating a suitable arrangement for spiritual advancement. It's not, it's a very important thing, and it's not just an important thing for those of us who are living in temples. It's equally applicable for those who are outside of the temple ashram environment. And it's not such a novel thing either. Even the people in general understand that your network is your net worth. That's one of their cliches that they have. But it's a shastric thing. It's a very basic need of devotees, that we need relationships which give shelter to us. And kind of tying some ideas together that I've been throwing around is we can take these sheltering relationships by understanding where people are at, where the people around us are at. And understanding where someone is at, we can understand how we should relate to that person. This is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the Bhagavatam in action, the Bhagavatam fully applied to one's life. We see this instruction in the Madhya Lila, Asat Sangityaga, E Vaishnav Achar, Sri Sangi Eka Sadhu, Krishna Bhakta Ara. That a Vaishnava should always try to avoid the association of ordinary people. Common people are very much materially attached, especially to women. Vaishnavas should also avoid the company of those who are not devotees of Lord Krishna. So there's the direct instruction for the devotees. The most suitable arrangement, because that's the example that the CC gives, is the perfect example of what somebody who wants to make perfect, rapid advancement in Krishna consciousness would do. And then we try to apply that standard according to our own position, our own psychological and social needs. But we do what we can. We can also see from Srila Prabhupada's comments in Krishna book some detail of how persons in the modes interact with others. Quoting directly from Srila Prabhupada, it is said that an offense can be committed either with the body, with the mind, or by speech. Bhrigu Muni's first offense committed towards Lord Brahma was an offense with the mind. His second offense committed toward Lord Shiva by insulting him was an offense by speech. And Srila Prabhupada also notes here, because the quality of ignorance is prominent in Lord Shiva, when he heard Bhrigu's insult, his eyes immediately became red with anger. So these are some examples of the way that the different modes affect us. And it's also given in Srila Prabhupada's comments. He names Parvati as Trigunamayi, which means the mother of the three modes. So he's referring to Parvati, he's referring to Devi when he's using this name, Trigunamayi. So this is the job of Devi, is to control the material world. She's the superintendent of the material world. She controls the three modes of material nature. She prods us with her trident of threefold miseries. So this is what's going on here, actually, in the material world. And the devotees can understand the suffering that is afflicted upon us and the three modes of nature in two ways: as something to run away from, something to avoid, and something to motivate us to get us out of here. And then another way of seeing things is to understand that the threefold miseries are not necessarily a curse, as we are accustomed to seeing them, but a blessing, not just a blessing, but a blessing from a pure devotee, because Devi is a pure devotee of the Lord, and she's trying her best to do her service, which is quite a complicated one. She's trying to give us this place to enjoy without letting us get too comfortable. So we find that this is a place of dualities. And hopefully we can find some discomfort in that. And in finding discomfort, we find a good motivation to get out. So there's a couple more things which I wanted to comment on, which are a little ancillary to what I've been talking about so far, so I couldn't find as smooth of a way to tie them in. So we see in the 7th verse that the name Janardana is used to describe Lord Vishnu. So I wanted to look into the Gita, because that's one of the names commonly used for Krishna in the Gita. So Arjuna often refers to Krishna as Janardana at times when he's questioning Krishna. And there's some familiarity that's there when using that name. And he also uses it sometimes when he's particularly confused. So it briefly touched on Svetadweep, and this is mentioned by Jiva Goswami as the Vaikuntha planet that's referred to in the verse. It's a very interesting verse of the Brahma Samhita that mentions Svetadweep. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives some information in his commentary on that verse, the 57th verse of the Brahma Samhita. He describes it as a place where as loving consorts, the Lakshmis in their unalloyed spiritual essence practice the amorous service to the Supreme Lord Krishna as their only lover. It is a place where every tree is a transcendental purpose tree, where the soil is pure, and the water is nectar, where every word is a song, every gait is a dance. The flute is the favorite attendant. The effulgence is full of transcendental bliss, and the supreme spiritual entities are all enjoyable and tasty, where numberless milk cows always emit transcendental oceans of milk, where there is spiritual existence, or where there is eternal existence of all transcendental time. So these are all nice glorifications of that place, Svetadweep. So, with that, we have a little bit of time if anyone has some questions. Thank you all for bearing with me today. I'm still not quite feeling well, but we made it.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the class. Prabhu, Virgu Muni decide to test the tolerance, the greatness of Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma? He decided to test the greatness of him. What was the purpose of that?
So, I had just closed my windows that would have had reference. Give me half a second.
That's all the way to the beginning.
So the chapter starts where Shukadev Goswami is setting the scene of a group of sages performing sacrifice on the banks of the Saraswati River. And it says, a controversy arose among them as to which of the three chief deities is supreme. So they went to the son of Brahma, Bhrigu, to get the answer to this question, which of the three, how's that worded? Which of the three chief deities is supreme? So we understand that, on one level of analysis, there's these, they call the three chief deities, at least of the material world: Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. So Bhrigu has to figure out some way of determining who is the supreme between those three, and he's decided that making offenses is the best way to do that. So that's why he's doing what he's doing. Insulting people, and later we'll hear some kicking, things like that. So it's kind of a crude way of going about things, but he's, just trying to figure out who the supreme is.
Yeah, I was thinking he almost got himself really hurt when he offended Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was getting ready to take his head off.
Yeah. Yeah, so we hear about, it's actually a really great, exaggerated example of why we should try to avoid offenses. We offend the wrong person, they might be liable to take our head off. Anything else? Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.